Hello everyone, my name is Rajdeep Devnath. Today we are going to present about foodborne pathogens. So first of all, let's see what foodborne pathogens are. Basically, foodborne pathogens are biological agents that can cause foodborne illness, mainly bacteria, viruses or even parasites that are present in the food. Foodborne illness, commonly known as food poisoning, is often caused by consuming food contaminated by bacteria and their toxins, parasite, viruses, chemicals or other agents. Some foodborne illnesses could be due to fungi or their byproducts such as poisoning by mushrooms or mycotoxins. Basically, there are so many types of foodborne pathogens. Till date, 250 different foodborne diseases have been described, and bacteria are the causative agents of two-thirds of them. In bacteria, we have Campylobacter sp, mostly associated with raw or undercooked poultry; Salmonella, mostly found in meat, poultry and eggs; Shigella, E. coli, mostly found in meat and unpasteurized milk; Listeria in uncooked meats, vegetables, unpasteurized milk and soft cheese. In viruses, we have rotavirus, norovirus, adenoviruses, hepatitis A and E. Some fungi that contaminate or spoil food are known as pathogens such as Alternaria, Aspergillus, Candida, Fusarium and Mucormycetes. In parasites, we have Giardia duodenalis, Toxoplasma gondii, Taenia solium. There are so many illnesses due to these pathogens. Globally, the WHO has estimated that approximately 3 to 5 billion cases of diarrhea and more than 1.8 million deaths occur in children under 5 years of age. And a significant proportion of this results from consumption of food, mainly food of animal origin contaminated with microbial pathogens of toxins. According to CDC, an estimated 76 million cases of foodborne diseases are reported annually in the USA, with approximately 5,000 deaths. In USA, diseases caused by the major pathogens alone are estimated to cost up to $35 billion annually in 1997, while in UK nearly 1.5 billion in 2010 in medical cost and lost productivity. In India, the burden of foodborne diseases are not known. Mostly foodborne diseases go unreported. Only few are reported by the media, usually those with high morbidity or occurring in urban areas. Approximately 9.3 billion to 12.9 billion US dollar cost paid on human disease treatments caused by 6 major pathogens including Salmonella, Campylobacter jejuni, E. coli, Listeria, monocytogenes, Staphylococcus aureus and Clostridium perfringens. And all these are foodborne. That's why the eye on these pathogens needs to be of higher importance. Now I would like to invite my fellow mate Mr. Adip Kumar Raskhwa to speak about some pathogens.
So, we have seen different bacteria and their uses or importance clinically. Here we are going to compile all those bacteria, which are the bacteria causing food poisoning, bacteria causing gastrointestinal diseases and many more infections. The major kind of organism which is causing the food poisoning are the Campylobacter species, the E. coli, the Salmonella species, Shigella species, Clostridium species. So, I will talk a little bit about them and the reasons for causing those diseases in very brief. Now, I start with E. coli. This E. coli is a gram-negative facultative anaerobic non-spore forming rod-shaped bacterium of the genus Escherichia, and it is commonly found in the lower intestine of the warm-blooded organisms. So this comprises a large and a diverse group of bacteria, and most of the E. coli are harmless. Drinking food or water contaminated with certain type of E. coli cause mild to severe gastrointestinal diseases. These are found mainly in the vegetables, sprouts, raw milk, cheese, ground meat. These pathogenic E. coli have been categorized mainly into 6 groups, and they are like EPEC, EHEC, STEC. This STEC is found to cause mild to severe diarrhea and also submucosal edema with severe colonic inflammation. EIEC is also found to cause diseases in water like water diarrhea. So what they do is that they produce certain type of toxin known as the endotoxin as their gram-negative bacteria, and that's how they attack the host. Next is the Campylobacter species. Campylo, as the name suggests curved or twisted, are a group of tiny, strictly microaerophilic, curved or spiral, non-spore forming gram-negative bacteria. About 12 species of the Campylobacters are known. Campylobacter jejuni and Campylobacter coli cause food poisoning, and Campylobacter jejuni is an emerging foodborne pathogen. This Campylobacter jejuni usually cause the disease in small intestine, and these bacteria occur via oral or fecal route. The bacteria will start to colonize in small intestine and sooner in jejunum and ileum, and in the region it will cause localized inflammatory lesions. Inside those inflammatory lesions, colonization of the bacteria occurs. And this process mainly undergoing in the microphilic temperature. This Campylobacter jejuni is the most common diarrheal illness, and this Campylobacter coli are also associated with human diarrhea and enteritis in pig. So these are caused from the raw milk, meats, and among the meats, these poultry constitute the greatest potential source of infections to humans. Next, we go on to the Salmonella species. So this group of enterobacteria are one of the most common cause of enteric infection. They were named after the scientist Dr. Delian Salomon, who isolated the first organism Salmonella cholerasis. This Salmonella constitute a group of organisms with over 2,500 different serotypes. And among those different serotypes, the two most common Salmonella species are the Salmonella typhimurium and the Salmonella enteritidis. So they cause food poisoning. So the effect of the Salmonella poisoning is in intestine, and they can cause disease by secreting enterotoxins. So this enterotoxin is going to cause bloody diarrhea, water loss from the body, and obviously will be related to abdominal pain, headache, cramps, etc. And these are the common symptoms of all the cases. Most importantly, the Salmonella species are found in the unprocessed food or the uncooked kind of food, which is poultry or meat. Illness from this bacteria is officially called as salmonellosis, and so we need to be very careful in choosing this poultry meat or egg. So if it is contaminating this bacteria, so they can be colonized inside our body from this poultry meat or eggs. Shigella. Shigella is a member of the family of Enterobacteria and possess four serogroups that traditionally are treated as species. The Shigella species are colonized in large intestine, and that's the difference between Campylobacter species, which is colonized in small intestine. What it does is that it colonizes in intestinal mucosa. It will also produce kind of enterotoxins. So these enterotoxins will eventually damage the intestinal mucosa, and as a result it will release some blood plus stool. This blood plus stool is generally termed as the bloody diarrhea. Also diarrhea means water loss. So dehydration will always take place. The strain of Shigella causing all these diseases is called as the Shigella dysentery. This bacterial disease is very common kind of disease and usually takes almost 3 to 7 days for total recovery of this disease, and it is also called as shigellosis. Now, lastly, I would like to wind up by saying about Clostridium species. It is slightly kind of different than the previous three because Clostridium species is a kind of anaerobic type of microorganisms usually found in soil, and it is in direct contact with our blood circulation system via kind of wound or food infection. Through the intestinal wall it can move. In those cases it can contaminate us or it can spread the disease. Among many types of Clostridium species, major two types causing the disease are the Clostridium perfringens and the Clostridium botulinum. The Clostridium botulinum are motile and produce botulinum neurotoxins, the most lethal toxin known to us. There are 7 kinds of botulinum neurotoxins based on their antigenic specificity of toxin produced by the each strain. The symptoms of this Clostridium species includes the nausea, vomiting, and also the flaccid paralysis or visual impairment. And the Clostridium perfringens belongs to the family of Bacilliaceae. These Clostridium perfringens are the most prevalent Clostridium species in human clinical specimens, and the second most bacterial cause. The spores are associated with dust contaminants of the surface, including foods such as the shellfish are the source in which these perfringens attack. Now I'd like Samir and Rafa to continue with this presentation by saying something about the fungal pathogen.
Good morning everyone. Now we'll be discussing about the pathogenic fungi given below. Firstly, Candida species. Candida species. Candida is a yeast and the most common cause of opportunistic mycosis worldwide. It is a frequent colonizer of human skin and mucous membranes. It is a member of normal flora of skin, mouth, vagina, and stool. As well as being a pathogen and colonizer, it is found in the environment, particularly on leaves, flowers, waters, and soil. Approximately 90% of infections are caused by 5 species that are Candida albicans, Candida glabrata, Candida trabeculosis, Candida parasilosis, and Candida krusei. Candida is responsible for both superficial, that is mucosal and cutaneous, and systematic infection. Approximately 8% of Mucosomial bloodstream infections are caused by Candida species. Now, candidiasis. Candidiasis is a fungal infection caused by yeast and a type of fungus and called Candida. Some species of Candida can cause infection in people. The most common is Candida albicans. Candida normally lives on the skin and inside the body in places such as mouth, throat, gut, and vagina without causing any problems. Candida can cause infection if it grows out of control or if it enters deep into the body. For example, the bloodstream or internal organ like kidney, heart, or brain. Candidiasis includes vaginal candidiasis, invasive candidiasis, and infection of mouth, throat, and esophagus. Moving ahead, our next point of discussion is Aspergillus species. Aspergillus species are well known to play a role in three different clinical settings. Firstly, opportunistic infection, second, allergic states, and third, toxicosis. Immunosuppression is the major factor predisposing to development of opportunistic infection. This infection may present in wide spectrum, varying from local involvement to dissemination, and as a whole, called aspergillosis. It is the second most commonly recovered fungus in opportunistic mycosis following Candida. Some Aspergillus species produce various mycotoxins. These mycotoxins, by chronic ingestion, have proven to possess carcinogenic potential, particularly in animals. Among these mycotoxins, aflatoxins is well known and may induce hepatocellular carcinoma. It is mostly produced by Aspergillus flavus and contaminates foodstuff such as peanuts. Some Aspergillus antigens are also fungal allergens and that may initiate allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, particularly in atopic host. Now, our next topic is Histoplasma species. Histoplasma is a thermally dimorphic fungus found in nature. Histoplasma capsulatum is a causative agent of true systematic mycosis called histoplasmosis. The spectrum of diseases is wide, varying from an acute benign pulmonary infection to chronic pulmonary or fatal disseminated disease. Histoplasma capsulatum yeast are adapted to infect mammalian macrophages. Pneumocystis species. Here, Pneumocystis cerevisiae is a yeast-like fungus of genus Pneumocystis. This is the causative organism of pneumocystis pneumonia. Pneumocystis pneumonia is a serious infection that causes inflammation and buildup in our lungs. It is brought by a fungus called Pneumocystis cerevisiae that is spreads through the air. The fungus is very common and most people's immune system have fought off by the time they are 3 or 4 years. The symptom includes fever, dry cough or wheezing, shortness of breathing, fatigue, chest pain or tightness while breathing, chill, weight loss. Symptoms usually come on slowly over several weeks in people who have HIV. In those whose immune system are weak for another reason, they tend to start over few days. Towards the end of our presentation, our last topic is Stochybotrys species. Stochybotrys ceratherum is a greenish black mold. It can grow on material with high cellulose content such as fiberboard, gypsum board, and paper. Growth occurs when there is a moisture from water damage, water leaks, condensation, water filtration, or flooding. Constant moisture is required for its growth. Now, I would like to request Mr. Bharju Protim Bora to continue this presentation. Thank you.
So now we come to the other half of the foodborne pathogens. So firstly, we'll look upon the viruses and then we'll move on to the parasites. Norovirus, which is sometimes referred to as the winter vomiting bug, and it is the most common cause of gastroenteritis. The infection is characterized by non-bloody diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach pain. Complications are generally uncommon but may include dehydration, especially in the young, old, and those with other health problems. It results in about 685 million cases and about 2 lakh deaths globally per year. So now coming on to the mode of transmission, the virus is usually transmitted by the fecal oral route and is usually through contaminated food or water or person-to-person contact. Also, transmission occurs via contaminated surfaces or through air from the vomit of an infected person. The symptoms of norovirus include nausea, vomiting, watery diarrhea, abdominal pain, and in some cases, loss of taste. A person usually develops symptoms of gastroenteritis 12 to 48 hours after being exposed to the norovirus. General lethargy, weakness, muscle aches, headaches, and low-grade fever may also occur. Moving on, we have hepatovirus A. Hepatovirus A causes an infectious disease of the liver, hepatitis A. Generally, the duration between infection and development of symptoms is between 2 to 6 weeks. Globally, around 1.4 million symptomatic cases and about 114 million infections, which include both symptomatic and asymptomatic cases, occur each year. Now, coming under transmission, the transmission of the virus is usually by eating food or drinking contaminated water. The shellfish which have not been sufficiently cooked are a relatively common source. The symptoms of the disease include fatigue, fever, nausea, appetite loss, jaundice, and diarrhea. Early symptoms of hepatitis A infection can be mistaken for influenza, but some sufferers, especially children, exhibit no symptoms at all. About 90% of the children do not have any symptoms. The risk for symptomatic infection is directly related to age, with more than 80% of adults having symptoms compatible with acute viral hepatitis. Coming on to the next slide, we have rotavirus. Rotaviruses are the most common cause of diarrheal disease among infants and young children. Nearly every child in the world is infected with rotavirus at least once by the age of 5. Rotaviruses are transmitted by the fecal-oral route via contact and contaminated hands. In addition to its impact on human health, rotaviruses also infect other animals and is a pathogen of the livestock. Signs and symptoms of rotavirus include rotaviral enteritis, which is a mild to severe disease characterized by nausea, vomiting, watery diarrhea, and low-grade fever. Dehydration is more common in rotavirus infection than in most of those caused by bacterial pathogens and is the most common cause of death related to rotavirus infection. Next, we come to hepatitis C virus. Hepatitis C virus causes infection which results in inflammation of the liver causing hepatitis E, which is a type of viral hepatitis. Hepatitis virus is a positive sense, single-stranded, non-enveloped virus and is one of the 5 known human hepatitis viruses. Transmission of hepatitis E is mainly through fecal-oral route that is similar to hepatitis A, although both the viruses are unrelated. Signs and symptoms of hepatitis E include acute infection and chronic infection. In case of acute infection, the average incubation period of hepatitis E is 40 days, ranging from 2 to 8 weeks. Now coming on to the chronic infection, it usually lasts for weeks and then resolves. In people with weakened immune system, particularly in people who have had solid organ transplant, hepatitis C may cause a chronic infection. Occasionally, this may result in a life-threatening illness such as fulminant liver failure or liver cirrhosis. Now we'll look upon some of the parasites which causes foodborne illnesses. So firstly, we have Giardia duodenalis. It is a one-cell microscopic parasite that can live in the intestine of animals and people, and it causes giardiasis. It is found in every region throughout the world and has become recognized as one of the most common causes of waterborne illness. The parasite attaches to the epithelium via ventral adhesive discs and reproduces via binary fission. Now we come to the transmission of Giardia duodenalis. It is frequently associated with drinking contaminated water, and also some people might get infected by consuming uncooked meat, also contaminated with Giardia duodenalis cyst. Symptoms include diarrhea, abdominal cramps, and nausea. Chronic infection might lead to dehydration and severe weight loss. Also, some cases may be without symptoms. So when does the symptoms generally appear? Symptoms will usually appear 1 to 2 weeks after ingestion of Giardia duodenalis cyst. They may last 2 to 6 weeks in otherwise healthy persons, but there are cases of chronic illness lasting months or even years. Next, we come to Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasma gondii is a single-celled microscopic parasite found throughout the world. It is the third leading cause of death from foodborne illness. It is interesting to note that these organisms can only carry out their reproductive cycle within the members of the cat family. So in this parasite-host relationship, cat is the definite host. Transmission of toxoplasmosis is by consuming foods such as raw or uncooked meats, especially pork or lamb, or by drinking untreated water from rivers or ponds. It is also transmitted by fecal-oral transmission by touching hands to our mouth after gardening, handling cats, or anything that has come into contact with cat's feces. Coming on to the symptoms, toxoplasmosis is relatively harmless to most people, although some may develop flu-like symptoms such as swollen limb glands or muscle aches and pains. In otherwise healthy individuals, disease is usually mild and goes away without medical treatment. However, persons with weakened immune systems such as those with HIV/AIDS infection, organ transplant recipients, individuals undergoing chemotherapy, and infants, they may develop severe toxoplasmosis. Moving on, we come to Taenia solium. Taenia solium is a parasitic worm and it causes teniasis. Teniasis is the name of the intestinal infection caused by adult stage tapeworms. Humans are the definite host of both organisms. This means that the reproductive cycle and thus egg production by the organism occurs only within humans. Eggs are passed in human feces and they may shed into the environment for as long as the worms remain in the intestines. These diseases are more prevalent in the underdeveloped countries where sanitation practices may be substandard. People get teniasis by consuming raw or undercooked infected beef or pork. Symptoms of teniasis include abdominal pain, weight loss, digestive disturbances, and possible intestinal obstruction. Although most cases of infection with adult worms are without symptoms. Taenia solium infections appear within 8 to 12 weeks and may last many years without medical treatment. Now our friend Karishma will speak on how all these pathogens act on the host organism.
So now we are going to discuss how the pathogens attack our body and some of the strategies used by them to evade the host immunity. The first is antigenic disguise. It is the process in which the antigens hide themselves inside some self molecules. Some bacteria may be able to coat themselves with host proteins such as fibrin, fibronectin, etc., or with host polysaccharides such as sialic acid, so that they are able to hide their own antigenic components from the immune system. For example, Staphylococcus aureus produces clumping factor that causes fibrin to clot and to deposit on the cell surface. Because of these, they are not readily identified as antigens by the immune system. The second is immunosuppression. Immunosuppression is the suppression of the immune system and its ability to fight infection. Some pathogens, mainly viruses and protozoa, cause immunosuppression in their infected host, due to which the host shows depressed immune response to antigens. So, the antigens start thriving and spreading infection during immunosuppression or when the immune system is less active. The third is specific immune response. It is the different response of the immune system to different regions of the body. Some regions of the body are well protected by the immune system, but there are certain other regions which are not properly taken care of by the immune system. So, the pathogens target those regions to stay for longer duration of time, which are not well protected by the immune system or where the macrophage or killer cells can't reach. Induction of ineffective antibodies. Many types of antibodies are formed against a given antigen. So sometimes the antigens produce certain molecules in large numbers which are not so harmful for the host cell, but as they are produced in higher percentage, the antibodies act against these not so harmful antigens first, whereas the antigens which are actually damaging for the host cell are left unacted by the antibodies and they continue damaging the host cell. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that Foodborne illnesses are fairly common and can have various effects ranging from mild discomfort to severe illness or even death. As we all know, prevention is better than cure. It is important to know how to prevent this problem. By following just some simple guidelines and tips, we can drastically decrease our chances of catching a disease from contaminated food. Thank you all for your attention. Stay healthy and stay safe.